hello everybody, and welcome back to the Master Chess Web Show. We had a summer recess that lasted quite a long time, so I suppose you might have missed us. And we are today. We're waiting for Nigel Povah to come, British international master, and somebody who successfully combined a regular career with playing chess, and also more recently sponsoring chess. And we have Nigel Povah in the waiting room. I'm now admitting him. So I think we have a full.
Oh, that took the years off my life.
A full complement of now. Right. Right, so I've asked Nigel to unmute so we can hear his dulcet tones.
Can you
and also,
hallelujah.
we can. Can we get a webcam up?
I've got my cameras on.
Right, but it's not showing as such.
No.
You've got to switch it on.
Caricature of yourself.
Hang on a minute.
Years ago.
At the bottom left.
Yeah. Hang on a minute.
Right.
It says start video, blur my background, choose background video.
Just start video, unless you're
Yeah,
really. No, blur the background.
Right. yeah. Thank you, Nigel.
Is that a Spider-Man costume you've got?
No, it's
hanging
Crystal
up?
Palace. Crystal Palace.
Oh, right, okay. Just wondering.
Yeah, no. How are you guys?
Yeah, well, we're all right, thank you. Well, I'm all right. He's all right.
A few years older than when we started the program, but not too bad.
I've lost my light chest now. Where the hell's that gone? I've got
well, it'll still be there
somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We'll share the screen in a minute. I think we probably were planning like a chat. We do.
Yeah, sure.
Try and talk to our guests a bit.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm going to kick this thing off by saying that I've known Nigel for about 45 years, something like that, which is an awful long time. And in all that time, he's never lost his enthusiasm and his love for the game of chess, which is quite remarkable, because I think we all go through phases where we hurl the chess set into the dustbin or something like that. But Nigel's not like that at all. And are you a Correspondence Grandmaster as well as being
Yeah.
in the days when actually, the engines were not being used that much?
Yeah, I was ranked, I think, 7th or 11th in the world at one point, 2630 or something.
Which shows really Nigel's got a very systematic and dedicated approach to chess. So just tell us a little bit about how you got into chess then.
It was, well, some of you out there may or may not know, but I had health problems as a child. I was a haemophiliac, so I wasn't allowed to play competitive sport. And my father encouraged me to play chess. I swam as well, which is a safe thing for a haemophiliac to do. But I had quite a strong competitive urge, and it came out in both of those areas. So he taught me at the age of 7, just after my grandfather died. And my grandfather had some chess sets, and we were living in Streatham, and I joined Streatham Chess Club at the age of 13. But my father never told me, this is rather perverse, he never told me that my grandfather had been the president of Streatham and Brixton Chess Club. And so I joined this club at the age of 13, not realizing that there was a history with my grandfather being quite a key figure in the club. And the club championship trophy, which had been missing for many years, in fact, spent 30 plus years in Roger Emerson's attic after he won it, was called the Povah Best Trophy.
I hear he's keen on collecting trophies.
Yeah, he's good at that. But this was named after my grandfather. So, it was quite perverse, really, that he had this relationship with the club and my father never mentioned it to me. And my joining the club was just pure coincidence. So, and I got hooked because I was fortunate enough to win my second ever tournament at the age of 14. I played in the London under-21s and came halfway, under-14, sorry, not under-21s. And then I won the Southern Counties under-14 a few months later. So once you've tasted victory at a young age, you're hooked. And I never got off the bandwagon, so to speak, and have played ever since with, varying degrees of frequency and regularity. There was a period when I didn't play so much as I started developing my business, which was when, in the mid 1980s, I stopped playing for a period. But yeah, I was lucky enough to get the IM title quite early and pretty much stopped playing after getting it, because it coincided with my business affairs. So, but after retiring, which I did 5 years ago, I've kind of re-engaged more. And as you know, Andrew, we meet up occasionally at Guildford Chess Club. So, you know, I'm quite active now in a way, particularly on the administrative front, where I'm doing a lot of work on the seniors scene.
Well, you mentioned Streatham and Brixton Chess Club. Of course, that was quite a prominent club back in the 1970s during the chess explosion.
Yeah,
and perhaps you could take us through a little bit about that era, because that was a really that was the prominent era for English chess.
Yeah, yeah, indeed it was. And you know, there were so many young talents coming through the British ranks, and so many of them, you know, were homegrown, so to speak. In those days, people didn't get much coaching, so the Tony Miles, the Michael Steens, John Spielmans, etc. of this world, they were all self-taught. And there was a lot of them coming along. And this was even before the Fischer-Spassky match of '72, which of course galvanized a huge amount of enthusiasm. And I was lucky to be part of that generation, a bit older than a number of them, but played against them regularly and knew them well. And they had a huge impact on British chess. And I put it down to, I think it was probably written about in the book, The English Chess Explosion. There were kind of at least two, maybe three ingredients that contributed to that. One was the sudden publication of books in English, principally driven by Batsford. And Bob Wade was, of course, the principal architect behind that. So we saw a huge number of books being published, and better still, a lot of the young English players were getting the opportunity to author some of those books, and that, in so doing, developed their chess talent, and it made opening knowledge more readily available to English players who hitherto books were in German or, you know, non-descriptive language, shall we say. Russian indeed. And the second thing was Stuart Rubin's initiative of developing the weekend Swiss circuit, because that didn't exist until Stuart launched it, I think, with the Islington Open, probably in the late 60s, I think.
71, I think, I remember, was very, very big.
Yeah, well, I think it was a tad before that. He might have started late 60s. But you're right, the 70s is when it really took off. And I played loads of weekend congresses, and I'll be showing you a game shortly of one of my victories from one of those weekend congresses in 1974, I think it was. I was thinking this morning, 48 bloody years ago. You know, it's horrible to think how long ago it was, you know. But yes, that was a really buoyant period, loads of weekend tournaments. And the importance of that was giving young English players the opportunity to play a lot of chess, and most importantly, to get to play endgames, because in league chess, it was always adjournment or adjudication, and more often adjudication. And that meant English players were renowned for being rubbish at endgames because they just didn't get the practice, the exposure. So those two events played a big role, but then you also had Leonard Barden was like one of the triumvirate between Bob Wade, Stuart Rubin and Leonard, who drove these coaching schemes for a lot of the young juniors. Yeah. This started a little later, but he kept league tables of who were the best English players or the best players in the world in the top under 12s, under 10s, under whatever age group. And he would be able to motivate the young English players by showing them where they sat in the ranking. And these three factors all combined really contributed to a huge burst or boost, I should say, in the playing standards of a lot of the young English players. And it was a very exciting time to be around. And at Streatham Chess Club, going back to that, Andrew, you know, I came back from having done my degree at Leeds University, and Streatham were in the second division of the London League, and I'd been used to playing in the first division in the Yorkshire League, playing people like Michael Haygarth and Brian Ely and other strong players. So I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to play in the second division of the London League, or I can go off and join another club. But I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. I remained loyal to Streatham, and I just set about recruiting. And I built Streatham Chess Club up over a few years to become the top club in the country. And we won the London League, with 11 out of 11. I had people like Julian Hodgson, Danny King, Mark Hebden, Glenn Fleer playing for us. There
was John Piggott,
yourself,
all these people, Julian Hodgson.
Yeah, Roger Emerson.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of John Branford, loads and loads of young, talented players. And when we won the national club in 1985, I think it was, the team was Hodgson, King, Fleer, Hebden, Coston, Gallagher, and myself. And then people like John Branford, John Piggott were reserves, couldn't even get in the team. It was so strong. And we won the national club quite deservedly with a lot of young talent. None of them were GMs then. In fact, hardly any of them were IMs, but they very quickly became IMs and GMs. So very exciting time.
Well, look, let's have a look at one of your games from that era. Is it against Hindle? Is that the
Yeah,
one?
I'd like to start with that one.
Right, okay. So are you logged into Lee Chess?
I was just now. Oh, yes, there we are.
Now, you should be able to move the pieces.
Yeah, are we on the right game?
Yeah,
yes.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, so this game is, I'll play through it quite quickly if I can. Here we are, because the opening is, oh, hang on, I clicked and it didn't move. What's happened there? Is that you doing that?
Yeah, I did the first move. You should be good now.
Okay, right.
As long as you're logged in.
Well, it's not happening on here.
Just do it on the moves on the right hand side.
I was actually on the moves.
Yeah,
The moves, yeah.
There you go.
Well, let's jump. It's not moving. Hang on.
Click on C5.
Yeah, it's not happening. Nothing's happening.
Well, shall I? Are you logged into Lee Chess?
Well, I logged in just now, but let me log in again. So let's see if I got it.
You're not in the room at the moment, that's why.
Okay, let me just log in. And then, sorry about that. I thought I was logged in.
You were, for sure.
Yeah. Right. And how do I get? I'm in it now. How do I get to the link that you want? The area I need to be?
It should be. Have you actually got? Are you clicking on the web browser, or are you clicking on the screen?
I was clicking. Well, I'm not on the web browser. That's the problem.
You've got to be on the web browser.
Yeah. So when I'm in Lichess, how do I get to the area you're in?
You click on the link that I sent you.
Ah, right.
Right.
Sorry about this, guys. We've got to go back to the.
Don't worry. This show is just a big accident waiting to happen anyway.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the same if things went smoothly.
Yeah, wouldn't it just? Right. Okay. Right. I've got it now.
Now, you should be able to move the pieces.
Yeah.
On the web browser.
Yeah. I am. I'm moving it on mine, but it's not showing on there.
Yeah, you're logged in. You're definitely logged in.
Yeah. And I'm moving the pieces on the web browser that I've got, but it's not coming up there.
Right. Well, let me do it for you.
All right.
I
Well,
will
an
be.
easy way to solve this problem.
So just tell me when to stop.
Okay. Well, I just want to go to move 9, really. I mean, what we've got is the standard Sicilian Dragon Yugoslav position that has been seen many, many times. So here we come. All right. Okay. Black carries on, bishop d7. So all of this is standard stuff. Triple O and rook c8 and bishop b3, knight e5.
Now, just stop you for a second. Now,
Sure.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that the Dragon was, one of the openings which English players really took to like during that period, the 1970s.
Absolutely.
All due to people like Mestel, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mestel was certainly one of the key proponents, but there were quite a few. And Ray Keane wrote a pamphlet in Chessman Quarterly, an ancient magazine that you might remember, you guys. And in that, he did quite a lot of articles on the Yugoslav variation, which was all the rage. Because at that time, the Najdorf was popular, the Dragon was popular as variations of the Sicilian. But variations like the Scheveningen and the Taimanov were much less popular. So it was these two that probably were the most prominent variations.
But it was Vestal and Miles who
Yeah,
actually were the ones who were prominent in this variation with Rook C8, just taking play back, because
yeah.
people played Queen A5 here at that time.
Well, that's the old line, yes, yeah. And the other line is Stein's variation, Queen B8.
Yeah.
I used to play that quite a bit. It was a nice way of sort of throwing people.
Hodgson used to play that, and I used to play it as well. That was also quite popular at the time.
Yeah, Queen A5 and then Rook FC8 was the old main line that was the leading line for many years before Rook C8 became the more popular line. And today, this is still the most popular line. And of course, now H4 is standard, although there are alternatives, but that's probably the most popular. And H5, which back in the time of this game in 1974 was relatively new. I had it a few times, as many of us had, but it was all the rage at the time. And today it's still the most popular way of countering White's kingside ambitions. Anyway, and in this position, I came up with my own novelty, which was to play knight d5 on move 13. Now, I came up with this because in these days there were no databases. So you could surprise people at the board. And I played this 3 times. The first time I played it was against Danny Wright. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
He was about 220, candidate master, just like Owen Hindle. And I managed to draw that game. But it was a decent surprise. And the concept behind knight d5 is quite simple. It's to eliminate the 2 knights, the c3 knight that is often a target for the black rook on c8 with an exchange sack, and to eliminate the knight f6, which is a vital defender of the black king. And by eliminating that, g4 options become more obvious, and that's exactly what happens in this game. I don't think it's a particularly good move, but it had surprise value, and if black doesn't continue correctly, then white does okay. Anyway,
just hesitate, just stop for a second. We just go back. You were talking about an exchange sacrifice.
Yeah.
I mean, for people who don't know the dragon that well, that would be something like this, wouldn't it? Now, is black going to go rook takes c3 here?
Quite possibly. I mean, to be honest, it's a long time since I looked at all the theory here, but
I would say almost certainly.
Yeah.
But that is the type of thing that black's aiming for, isn't it? I mean,
exactly.
what does he get for the exchange?
I think in this position you have to be careful, because bear in mind, instead of king b2, white could play f4.
No, knight fg4.
And then queen g6 check.
No, knight takes.
No, knight fg4.
Yeah, but then he has to go queen g5 and
the queen's trapped. No, it's not trapped. So queen g5. What do you do?
Well, hang on just a sec. We also have some various things with queen takes c3.
You do indeed.
One check and queen takes d4 check.
You do.
You just do this, check, here, check, and then take e5. Oh, the
g6 still happens.
queen takes g6.
Yeah, but it's all happening with check. You've got at least a draw, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got at least a draw.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's at least all right.
Yeah.
The queen.
These are the sorts of tactics that make the dragon, quite a dangerous counter-attacking weapon, this exchange sack, which is one of the reasons why my knight d5 idea was played, just to avoid it. But
it's interesting. Did you get to play that in correspondence at all?
No. I quickly realised it was not sound, in all truth. Great surprise weapon, but once you've played it a few times, you realise it's got limitations, and I don't think it's the best continuation. I think bishop g5 became a very popular variation. I played that as well on occasions in this line, instead of knight d5. Might be the
c5, isn't it?
Yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff, because the idea of bishop g5 is to be able to play a quick bishop takes f6 and f4 e5 quite often after knight de2.
Now, when was this game played? 74, was it?
74. I played it.
Even then, to play the dragon, you used to have to know a lot.
Oh yeah.
These days, you probably have to know at least double the amount.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot
or even more than that.
Yeah.
Just to play the blinking opening.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Anyway,
Right.
back to knight d5.
Yeah. So I say my knight d5, I played it 73. I played 3 games, 73, 74, and 75. So
Can't
this
be that
one,
bad. It must be a solid move, for heaven's sake, surely.
yeah, but I don't think it's good enough. And anyway, on the database, there are nine games where I think black has taken on d5. Let me just get the position over here. Yeah, I believe
What
that's.
Hindle did, was it?
Sorry?
He took it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did take it, yeah, which is the natural response. And after bishop takes, which I played.
Knight c4 he goes.
He did indeed. And that's quite an obvious move, but in fact not best. I think e6 is best. I think the engines, because I looked this up the other day, like the idea of playing a5 as well and just getting on with the queenside attack. But knight c4 is an obvious looking move. And yeah, this is the sort of thing that's dangerous for
And then this cunning move.
Yeah, I think a3 is better than a4 actually. But this is the sort of reason why this isn't particularly great, because you're under a bit of pressure here. Black's gonna throw his pawns up, you know, and
Nevertheless, for a dragon player to find e6 if they don't know this position is not totally straightforward, is it?
No, indeed. And that's why knight c4 has been played quite a few times, even in the more recent outings with this line. So I took off, he took with the rook, and here you come, g4. It's just such an obvious.
He can't resist.
No. Well, it's the right continuation. That's the whole point behind the knight d5 idea. And black, really has a problem here. He can't avoid some opening on the king side. So captures is the obvious reply, which is what he did on g4. And we come in immediately with h5. And in this position, Owen played a strange looking move. Bearing in mind, this is a weekend Swiss game, so it was played on a Sunday afternoon, after a morning game, etc. We're not talking about nice leisurely time limits. So he threw in g5. The idea being, of course, to try and keep the h-file closed.
It is worth mentioning that Owen Hindle was an exceptionally strong player.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's probably IM standard.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Transposing into the present day.
Yeah,
was he a Scottish? Was he Scottish, or was that his wife?
No, I think he's English. So he was 220 ECF rating, 220, 225, which is about 2,400 in modern day ELO terms. So he's a very decent player. Anyway, so after g5, which
it's a weird looking move.
Very weird, and you can see the engine doesn't like it, and it's a bit sort of dangerous. But I just continued on with pushing the h pawn, h6, and he put the bishop on e5, which is logical enough. And now I played a move that was a little bit cautious, but sort of securing my position. I played b3, and the main reason was to drive the rook away from hitting the knight to ease a bit of relief. I was obviously very aware of the fact it weakened my dark squares, but I didn't see that this was likely to be a problem in the short term, and indeed it doesn't prove to be a problem. So he retreated to c8, and I pushed on with h7 check, and he played king h8. And the interesting thing is, if you look at this position, it looks like black's king should be safe now on h8, but appearances can be very deceptive, and his problem here is going to be the g file, not the h file. And so in this position, I took off the pawn on g5. Was that me?
I did it.
You did it.
You try it yourself.
Yeah. No, it's not working when I do it, so I'll stick with what I've got. And he now played. He took on f3, and this is it's a blunder. But at the time, I must confess, it didn't occur to me it was obviously a blunder, but the engine shows it to be a blunder, and the reason it's a blunder is it's opening the g file, or makes it easier for me to open the g file. But he's got a difficult position here. I think queen c7 was perhaps better.
Don't you?
Yeah, looking for some counterplay. And after, if I took on e7, he's got rook f8. bishop back G5, F6, bishop H4, and bishop takes D4. But this looks, if he plays bishop takes D4, actually White's still doing okay after C4.
Incredible.
Yeah, and after bishop A1, king B1, bishop E5, F4.
So if he goes back here, you just go F4, do you?
Yeah, so you regain the piece.
On incredible position.
Yeah, with a very, very worrying king position for black,
So bishop A1, the dragon
King B1.
bishop reaches the end of the line.
King B1. King B1, bishop E5, F4. Yeah. You just say thank you very much.
That's quite an unusual sequence.
It's very unusual. So he's got problems already with the weakness of his G file and his vulnerable king on H8. So anyway, back to GF3.
Yeah.
And I now played in this position
Bishop H6.
H6.
Yeah.
I might add, I had absolutely no intention of taking the rook on F8. I mean, my bishop is a monster, and I'm not interested in the rook. What I am interested in is putting my bishop on a more powerful square where it has access to G7, which later on you'll see is very significant. He played F2 because he wants to stop rook G1, and I took it. And his reason for playing F2 is now the queen D6 move that he played. His thinking is he's got a pin on that diagonal, tying the knight down, and also preventing my rook from leaving D1 without loss of the knight. So in this position, I came up with what proves to be a winning idea, queen to G1.
That's a nice move.
Yeah. And my idea, I'm actually, there is a threat here, a massive threat here. And this isn't just, defensive move. This is a threatening move. And black's move now is forced. He only has one sensible move, and he played it, F5. And the reason for this is to give himself a flight square for his king on F7. Because if he plays another move...
Right, I shall fall for it, as I do on this show.
Go on.
With a cheesy grin.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. So, and now the winning move
Queen
is
G8 check.
Queen G8 check.
Oh, Nigel's on form today.
Yeah.
And
it,
oh dear.
in essence, White wins the house here. I mean, it's either wins the house or mate. So takes, check, king takes, rook DG1. And now black has to give up material to create a flight square for his king. And
it's great stuff. Two bishops down the drain in one move.
Yeah. And the reason he played that bishop G4 is so that the king has a flight square on D7. Without that, it would be mate on G8.
There's a sporting chance you might be material up in a minute.
Well, two pieces, yeah. Yeah. So game over, really.
That's a fun line.
Yeah,
okay.
It was. So that was the threat. Owen's no mug. He saw it, and he played F5. But now comes the winning idea, which I'd seen when I played Queen G1, and that's my next move, which was Rook D2.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So the whole point here is he now played Bishop takes knight, trying to keep me distracted, shall we say? And rather than recapture,
This next move is incredible.
Yeah, I just simply played Rook G2. And he's now busted because he can't take on G1, of course, because of Bishop G7 mate. And Rook G8 check is going to deliver mate. Rook G8, Rook takes, pawn takes, Queen, Rook takes, Bishop F8 mate.
Brilliant.
Or Bishop G7 double checkmate, take your pick.
He flicked Bishop B2 check,
which was pointless. Yeah, it was pointless. And I took it and he resigned. Yeah.
That's a nice game, isn't it?
Yeah. It's one of the games it won the Brilliancy Prize, or was co-winner of the Brilliancy Prize. But probably what made me most proud of this game was I was a subscriber to the Russian weekly chess magazine, 64. And it popped through my letterbox one day, and there on the back page was this game.
Wow.
So Karpov and his editorial team had picked it up and published it in his magazine. And, I was quite chuffed to see one of my games published in '64.
Yeah.
So one
I
of
mean,
my
just going back to this moment where you played Knight D5,
yeah.
I don't think it's that easy for black, if you're just playing this for the first time, to find all the right moves.
Probably not. But the trouble
You made
is,
the dragon look a very bad opening.
yeah, the trouble is that it's the sort of thing you can try once, but if you've played it once and someone knows you're likely to play it, they're going to look and find the best way of responding, and then it's not something you're going to want to play again. A great surprise weapon, but not probably good enough as a regular line of choice.
Was it also published in some English newspaper why 64 would get hold of it? I mean, presumably they didn't have like some spy hanging out at the tournament.
It was. Yes, Nigel. It was published in Chess and BCM. So,
Okay.
But it got to 64 very quickly. So I'm assuming they got hold of the most recent editions and were able to sort of put it on in their own magazine as well. But it's quite nice, I think the motif down the G file made it quite an interesting sort of game, and it was that I think caught their attention.
Moving into the present era, thinking about that tale of Streatham and Brixton Chess Club, we now move to sort of Guildford Chess Club.
Yeah.
How long has that been going? At least 10 years, hasn't it, the whole project?
Oh, yeah. Well, I joined Guildford Chess Club over 30 years ago. I mean, when I moved out of London, down to Guildford, where I met my wife, and we live down here still. And I found it very difficult to play for Guildford with any enthusiasm in the early years. I was so wedded to Streatham and I felt it almost a betrayal to play for any other club. But over time, I had a period when I wasn't playing much chess. And then when I started to play again, I started playing for Guildford. And my good mate, Roger Emerson, who was at Streatham with me, he was living in Surrey as well. And so I persuaded him to come and start playing for Guildford. And between us, as you say, Andrew, at least 10 years ago, probably a bit longer actually, 15 years ago or so, should we say, we started building up Guildford, in particular, with our investment in the 4NCL.
Yes, I mean, chess changed in England, didn't it? From a point where you mentioned the National Club.
Yes.
Which was a tournament for clubs, chess clubs, all throughout the UK, actually.
Yeah.
That was really overtaken in the 1990s by the Four Nations Chess League, the 4NCL.
Yes.
Which was started by a guy called Chris Dunworth.
Yeah.
I remember the initial meetings held in various locations around the UK.
Yeah, me too.
And it took off. It's basically the National Club at weekends, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And you could take your players from a wider audience rather than just one club.
That's right.
Guildford became incredibly successful, didn't it? It had a tremendous rivalry with Wood Green, as far as I remember.
That's right. Yeah. It was originally myself that was sponsoring it. I just put a bit of money in because I had my own business. So I was able to sort of get the company to sponsor the club. And we built the team up, and I recruited all the ex-Streatham guys that used to play for us, Tony Coston, Glenn Fleer, Mark Hebden, and Danny King, of course, who I used to coach. So I got those guys back playing for Guildford. And then Stuart Conquest, and it just grew from there and there. And then I got Jim Plaskett, Jonathan Rouse, and I'm probably forgetting people. I gave David Howell his first GM norm playing for Guildford in the 4NCL. So I brought a number of players on, and then when Roger joined us, he took it up another level, although I'd already brought people like Peter Svidler and Gurevich and
well, I remember one match, Wood Green against Guildford, where virtually everybody who was who's who of world chess players.
Yeah.
Judith Polgar was playing, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. And those matches were
unbelievable.
always very tight. I think there was never more than a half a point in it. 4.5, 3.5 victory, sometimes a 4-all draw. So well contested matches. It was a really exciting time.
Well, before we go on with Guildford, we've got another game of yours now, which you actually played for Guildford against Andrew Ledger.
Yes, that's right.
Another formidable opponent.
Yeah.
So why don't we go through that game?
Yeah.
Can you move the pieces now? Are you able to move them, maybe? your mouse is moving around on the.
Yeah, no, it's not responding to me. So
Press on D4. Press
Yeah.
on D4.
yeah, so I'll just talk to it if you just move them.
I
for
will
me.
move the pieces. Right, here we go.
So D4, D5, Bishop G5.
Okay.
Now this is a line that I call it the pseudo trompe. Jim Plaskett's written a book on it, and he very kindly put this game in the introduction.
It's a
Actually.
masterpiece. A masterpiece.
Thank you.
No, not your game. Jim Plaskett.
Oh, right. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. But I've played this over 100 times in classical games, never mind the hundreds of times in blitz games. And I've scored over 70% with it. And its point is to surprise black players. Obviously, it has the opportunity to transpose to standard Queen's Gambit decline type variations with C4 and bringing the two knights out. Would be like the Queen's Gambit declined, but it also is a bit like the trompe, where after a knight f6 you might do an early capture on f6. You might, and that would take you into standard trompe territory. So in this position, black players usually respond with either h6 or c6. Those are the two most popular moves. But f6 is a particularly challenging move for white. It looks a bit anti-positional because it denies the knight the f6 square, but it does gain some quick development for black and is quite challenging. I won't go into it now because it's quite elaborate. Yeah, that's one of the ideas. There's quite a lot of different variations.
I've played this myself quite a few times. I find that this is quite an effective move. I know it loses a tempo, but it's like playing black against f3, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah, I've played Bishop f4 more than Bishop h4, but there's another move actually that's been recommended after f6, which Richard Pert recommends in his book, and that's Bishop d2.
Torrey has played Bishop d2.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite a neat idea with a quick e4 coming, and the lines are quite complicated, and it's probably a good way of playing against someone that's playing f6 because it's less popular, but it's been essayed a few times. But anyway, back to the game, and C5 was played, and quite a few people have played this, and I've always enjoyed playing against this, and indeed I think white gets a very good position here very quickly by taking the pawn. Which is
just one question: if black plays this first, and now c5, I think this is a better way to do it, isn't it?
What, for black?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes,
you get options, don't you?
Indeed, indeed.
If you're going to play c5.
Yes, indeed. It's definitely a better way to do it.
Especially in lines where white plays here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now, you don't do that, do you? You play something different.
Yeah. Well, I took on c5 here, and he played check, which is queen f5 check, which is looks logical because it looks like he's trying to regain the pawn. But after knight c3, which is the standard reply, I think white's got almost a winning position already, would you believe? Because you're going to win a pawn here unless he plays as he does, which is e6. But now comes the key move, e4.
Very sharp.
Absolutely. And I knew this line well. I don't think Andrew did. Andrew Ledger, my opponent, who's an IM, a good IM.
What is the circumstance of this game? Is this 4NCL or something?
No, this was a club game. It was Guildford against Redhill, an evening club game. So
if you come to the game knackered, you're not playing the best moves, are you?
But this game was all over within an hour. It was that. But Andrew clearly didn't know this position, and e4 is a very strong move. And it's interesting to show your readers, listeners, observers, why d takes e loses. This is horrible. And the winning move here is b4. And the queen on a5 has got no choice. And now we've got a series of 5 forced moves coming up. Queen c7, only move.
Only move.
Knight b5.
Oh dear.
Queen d7, only move. Captures the queen. King takes, only move.
Lovely.
Triple O check. King c6, only move. And now rook d8.
Can I go home now?
And the game's over. I've had this position quite a lot of times and in blitz games, and I've won them all.
I've had it in my nightmares.
Yeah, I mean, there are many ways of winning this position.
Line.
Yeah, after knight d7, which is forced here, there's various winning moves. I think knight d6 is meant to be good, knight d4 check is good. The move I've often played is knight a7 check. Knight a7, rook takes c8, king d5, and I simply play king b2, greedily holding my a2 pawn, and I've got all the time in the world to batter that king. But, you know, I haven't bothered analysing this because it's pretty miserable for black, with his king being his best developed piece. Yes. So, if you go back to e4 on move 5.
That's an incredible line, isn't it?
It is. So in this position, he can't take that pawn, and any capture on the c pawn is just going to lose the d pawn. It'd just be a pawn down for nothing. So anyway, he continues with the capture on c5, bishop takes, and I continue with my capture on d5. And here Andrew thought, I guess, that he'd found a key resource in queen b6. And he's got the twin threats of queen takes b2 and bishop takes f2. But luckily I'd seen this idea and saw what was going to happen over the next few moves with my reply, which was the simple queen to d2 to stop bishop f2. But he plays bishop f2 anyway, thinking he's got a resource. I took it, and now he played queen takes b2. Now this game, funny enough, as I say, I can't remember the date of this game. I've got it there somewhere, 1990, what was it?
2003.
2003, thank you. So 19 years ago. This game, you know, this position is totally won for white already. And my move now just confirms the fact. Funny enough, this was recently played and there's a game given on the database. Obviously my game isn't because it wasn't a FIDE game, where white played the incorrect knight b5. And black took the rook, and you know this game is not won for white. So that's a mistake. But instead of doing that, which is nonsense.
That's an inaccurate move order. Definitely.
Yeah. What I did is much stronger. You just play king d2. And
as you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to give up the rook because my development is so significant. So I've given up the exchange, but I've got a huge lead in development. And the game doesn't last very long now. So I played knight f3, just calmly developing. I don't need to rush. I've got a threat now, bishop b5 check. So he prevents that by putting a piece on d7. And now I played, what did I play here? Oh, I took on e6.
No, yes, yeah.
He can't take back with the bishop now, so now's the time to make that capture, fracturing his pawn structure. And in this position, you know, when I looked at it afterwards, the engine likes queen e3, which is a logical attacking move. But I played the simple, quiet rook g1. And the whole point of this is I've renewed the threat of bishop b5. So I'm ensuring the development of my last few pieces, and I'm going to develop bishop e5 with tempo. And it's very difficult for him to find a decent move. He anticipated the bishop move by playing queen b2. And I played the bishop move anyway.
Yeah.
And the main reason for that, apart from pinning the knight, is to prevent him going queen b6. So his queen can't get to a useful square, and I'm threatening to win his queen. Well, I will be in a minute. He played king. What did he do here? And he played knight gf6, didn't he? I think.
Knight f6, yeah.
Yeah, knight f6. Yeah.
So if queen b4, you just play rook e1, yes?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I hadn't. I think there's white's forces are just overwhelming because he's got everything going for him. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know what the best is. I didn't look at this, but
it looks truly terrible for black.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a huge lead in development, haven't you? Queen b4 probably was better than what he did, but he thought, it's logical to play what he played because he's hoping to get castled.
Well, can't you go rook e1 again?
No, I'm saying he didn't do that. He did not.
No, but we just looked at that, didn't we? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So he played knight gf6.
Queen b2.
Yeah, bishop b5.
Knight f6, yeah.
Knight gf6, yeah. And I say that's logical because he's looking to castle. If he gets castled, he's out of trouble. So I cannot allow him to castle. So yeah, I take the knight to weaken his king position. And now the very important queen c5. And the whole point of this move is I'm threatening rook b1, winning the queen, because I've taken away the a3 and b4 squares, and I've prevented castling. So he played king f7 to break the pin on the knight and attack my queen. And I just played queen to d6, which keeps the black queen in trouble and threatening rook b1. And he now played a sneaky move, knight b6. Now, if I play rook b1, he wins with queen takes b5, followed by knight c4 check, forking the king and queen.
Nice.
And I'm losing. But instead,
let's see that. Let's see that, shall we? So, if rook b1, queen takes bishop.
Yeah. Rook or knight takes.
He takes it, and then
knight c4.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to fall for that, would you?
No, and I'm a rook down, so game over. Yeah. So a complete, reversal that could be if you do the daft rook b1.
Wouldn't happen in the Sinkfield Cup. That's all I can say.
It wouldn't. But instead, I'd seen I had a more crushing move, which I played, which leads to mate, which was knight e5 check.
I think that they'd be searching your shoes in the modern era at this point.
Yeah. So he's now busted. So and after fe, if he doesn't play fe, if he plays king g7 or
oh my god, queen e7 check, is it?
Yeah, queen e7. So he's not gonna get away, and then it's going to be mate in two. Queen f6 and bishop at e2 mate. So he took the knight. I played rook f1 check.
All very pleasant.
King g6, bishop d3 check, king h6.
All forced, isn't it?
It's all forced. Rook f6 check, and now it's mating 2. So he resigned.
Okay, I won't resign, as is customary on this show. Go with the mate.
Queen e5.
Sorry?
Queen e5.
Sorry, my hearing is a bit...
Queen e5.
Queen e5, and then rook f4 will do.
Yep, that will indeed do.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about this game, though, is that I believe it's, if you put it on the engine, it's totally won after 9 king d2.
Yeah.
I think White's probably got a good, if not winning position after knight c3 as early as move 4, because you're just going to win a pawn. I mean, it's quite ridiculous. I mean, it's one of those lovely games where, material isn't what matters, it's development that matters.
Well, at least he got to go home early.
Yeah.
Which he probably looked like he wanted to.
Yeah, indeed. So, yeah.
Another nice game.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. As I say, Jim put it in the introduction of his book on the pseudo trump, and I think it exemplifies some of the dangers in this particular line. So it's quite a useful weapon. I still play it on the odd occasion, so I've done well with it.
Now, recently you've turned your attention to seniors chess.
Yes.
And you're the ECF. What's your exact title?
Well, at the moment, I'm Stuart Rubin's deputy. Stuart is the ECF seniors manager, and next year I'm taking over from Stuart. So this year I'm his deputy, although Stuart's been very gracious and allowed me to do most of the organising for seniors this year. Obviously, I'm constantly discussing matters with him, but he's left it largely to me, and he just comments if he thinks, I ought to think of X or Y, but on the whole, he's letting me get on with things. And it's quite exciting because Stuart, I think Stuart, I've always had a great admiration for Stuart because he's done such a lot for English chess. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, he launched the weekend Swiss circuit, which was instrumental in the English chess explosion. But also, he is the guy who has launched seniors chess in the UK. Seniors chess was played a lot in Germany some years ago, but it was Stuart that started playing seniors chess in the UK. And Stuart actually held in the UK, I think in the Isle of Man, the first ever World Senior Team Chess Tournament. And since then, it's become an annual event. England hasn't staged it since. But of course, as it was reported quite widely recently, back in June this year, we took a number of teams to Aquitermi in Italy, where we won the World Over 50 Championship and the World Over 65 Championships.
Which is an extraordinary success.
Indeed. I mean, England had never won either before. And we also, I should add, won the Women's Over 50 Championship too. So we never won we never won a world title since 1978, when we won the World Student Team Championships in the age under 26 age group. And we've never won a world title since then. So, you know, we're talking a hell of a long time. And so it was great to not just win one, but 3 world titles in one go. And no nation has ever won both the 50 and the 65 at the same time. So fabulous result for us. And I'm looking forward to us repeating that again in the future, because that English chess explosion that we talked about earlier, a lot of those talented players are now filtering through into the seniors ranks.
Yeah.
So English chess has a great opportunity before all the old Soviets.
Before we all snuff it.
Yeah, exactly. And before the old Soviets come through. Obviously, once some of those Soviets come through, it won't be so easy again, or the Chinese and the Indians in the years ahead. But at the moment, we've got a great opportunity at this age group. So it's
I think if they stop holding these events at 5-star hotels, they might become considerably stronger.
Well, indeed. That's one of the challenges, you know, but we'll hopefully address that.
Anyway, we've got another game, a last game of yours, which is from a seniors event, I believe.
It was from this World Senior Team Championship. So it was England against Germany. I can't remember which Germany team.
Germany won.
It was Germany won. Yeah, England against Germany won. We were the 3rd seeds. I think they were the 4th seeds. So it was a close match in terms of seedings. This was played on board 4, I think.
And you are black in this game?
I'm black, yes. So,
okay.
So it's a Caracan, which I've essayed on a few occasions. And so we just rattle through the opening moves. It's the classical variation.
Quite rare to see you playing the Caro, Nigel. You normally play the Sicilian.
I do, but I've had in the past, I've played the Scandinavian and the Caro as well as the Sicilian, and I like to vary it on occasions. So that was a case here, varying it. And I recently looked at this E-takes capture. I used to play the G-takes capture, but the E-takes capture has become more popular these days. David Howell and others have been playing it, so it's.
I think Nigel knows something about this, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I did a DVD which included G-takes and E-takes.
Yeah.
I always had quite a regard for E-takes.
Yeah.
Alekin considered the position just equal.
Yeah. Yeah.
E-takes was an equal position.
Yeah.
And Kevin Spraggett has played it as well. And there's one very good game I found. It's not generally available, but he played a game against Tiviakov.
Oh yeah.
It's buried in his website somewhere. I can probably dig it out and send it to you.
Well,
but this was just a very instructive game, showing how black can play against white's queenside majority just by meeting d5 with c5 and then blockading on d6.
Yes.
But the major conclusion I came to is you need to keep the dark squared bishops on with black,
yes.
In order to create that blockading option.
Right.
You talked about Ray Keane earlier. I remember an article of his in Modern Chess Theory. Do you remember that magazine?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
There's a little white rectangular cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
He talked about Ulf Anderson playing this line, and I think he was focusing on this, which was back in the 70s was the main line, and then black was here.
Queen e7 check.
Yeah.
Yeah, hoping for knight e2.
And again, it's an early night.
Yeah.
Early night.
So you either win in 7 moves or you get some long end game against Ulf.
Yeah.
Either way, it doesn't sound too pleasant. And to be fair, your opponent plays the critical line, doesn't he?
Yeah, the modern line, and I knew he did. That helped. That he played this a few times, so I was prepared for it. Queen C2, isn't it here? And
Yeah, just going back, there was some innovation that Korchnoi played in. He played this, didn't he, with black? What was it? Something to do with knight A6. It was something like.
Well, he was convinced by I think by Ray Keane to give this a try, and then Bent Larson, he wrote an article that appeared in Modern Chess Theory to say that Ray Keane was guilty of teaching Korchnoi to recapture with the wrong pawn on F6.
That's the idea. Well, okay, it's a question of taste. Black gets very free development in this line. That's probably what you like, Nigel, isn't it?
Yes, and even though the GF move, which I played in the past, had more appeal for me because I used to be a Sicilian Sveshnikov player, as you know, Andrew, and so I was quite used to having the doubled F pawns and an E pawn, and being able to charge up or contest the centre. So I wasn't worried by the fractured pawn structure, whereas a lot of people, I would say, were often concerned about this structure because, as we know, if all the pieces come off, it's a one king and pawn ending for white. So black has to keep the pieces on and get a suitable level of activity in what doesn't look to be such an obvious position to generate activity. Obviously, the black king is extra safe because of the F6 pawn providing extra king cover. But this position also, what appealed to me is this next move, which
extraordinary move.
Yeah, is the favoured move these days, H5.
Well, they've been playing F5.
Have
F5
they recently?
Is the latest thing.
Oh,
and
right.
The game between in the 4NCL, I was sitting next to it, between Harry Grieve and Richard Pert.
Oh yeah.
This line.
And you can't take the pawn.
You can't take the pawn, and then black gets some sort of mysterious compensation. By transferring his knight, take the bishop, queen takes, and then knight D7.
Really?
Yeah, aiming to go to B6 and C4 or D5.
Right.
Go to B6.
And pressure E3.
Yeah.
And that's sufficient compensation, is it?
Well, I haven't analysed it, but I just noticed it was played, and it's been played in more than one game as well.
Ah, interesting.
So in the old books, they recommended King H8 or G6, didn't they?
Yes.
Just normal moves. I mean, F5 is an incredible move, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
I would probably still play King H8, just
I don't like G6.
That's what anybody told me.
Yeah, I don't like G6 because that seems to invite H.
No.
So H5, my goodness, that is a real Alpha Zero special, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but it is. I don't know whether on the database it's the most popular move, but it's certainly a very popular move. And I know people like David Howell and various others have played it, and a perfectly respectable move because A, it avoids the loss of the pawn on H7, but B, it aims to use that H pawn as a weapon. Harry becomes a weapon, and that proves to be the case in this particular game.
On the subject of Harry, there was also a game the same weekend, I think, between Harry Grieve, the new British champion, and Jovanka Huska.
Oh yeah.
Which Harry won very, very quickly.
Right.
And that they both looked kind of well prepared, and then suddenly Jovanka sank into thought.
Was that a Caro as well?
That was this line.
That was line.
H5. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I mean, Harry's been playing incredibly well lately, and I've known him quite well because he plays for Guildford, of course. He was brought up in Guildford and went to the Royal Grammar School in Guildford. And he's a real young talent, and now he's I'm sure heading. He hasn't got his IM. He's got his IM third norm.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll probably make his IM title shortly, if not already. And obviously, he's got himself his first GM norm. So I would be surprised if he doesn't become a GM before long. But he's really improving very rapidly. So and played brilliantly in the British, brilliantly. Anyway, so after H5, where are we? What did he do?
Well, he went there.
Yeah, Bishop E3 is the normal move, and that's the move he played twice before. So he surprised me with Bishop D2. And after bishop e3, I intended, I think, as I played in the game, was it knight d7 and b5? I can't remember.
Would you just play your knight round to d5 or something like that? Is that
Yes, yes. But knight d7 would be the move, and then b5.
Does he castle now or what?
Yeah, triple O's usually here, I think. Because obviously the whole point about Harry on h5 is it slightly deters white from wanting the castle short, although castling short is, I think, still quite respectable.
What would you play now? b5, is it?
I was going to play b5.
Wow.
That is the main line. The main line is knight f8, but b5 is also a very.
g4, come on.
I don't know. I guess I'd be tempted.
I have a question. Can you play 10 a5 for purely aesthetic reasons?
Well, you could, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Hoik, and you delay g4 because you've got your bishop there still. So I want to bring probably the knight to a6 or something. I'll shove the a pawn further and then play knight a6 somewhere.
But why do you want to put the knight on a6?
So the bishop on c8 still acts against white's kingside pawn advance.
And you're aiming to go to d5 via c7, are you?
But something like that, yeah.
I'll
work out the details as we go along.
The whole point of knight d7, which is, I believe, the usual move, is it usually then goes to f8 to provide a bit of security on the king side.
Okay.
But it can also go to b6, as it did in this game I'll be showing, and then end up on d5, or can do. So, I mean, yeah, a5 must be a viable option as well, I'm sure. Don't know what the database says.
Number of new ideas there. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Has a5 been played? A lot of moves have been played there.
Oh, you're looking at the database. Sorry.
Yeah, the Lee chess database. So we've got a whole bunch of moves: castles, bishop e3. Sorry, after bishop d2, we have just knight d7 and bishop g4. And if white had played bishop e3, which I think is the more
common move. Yeah.
No, his most popular move is castles. But if he goes bishop e3, then black has played a huge bunch of moves, including knight d7, bishop e6, h4, queen a5, knight a6, and queen c7.
But not a5.
Not a5. There you go. New move.
Novelty.
Yeah.
We should be charging for this program.
Yeah.
We might get sued if somebody plays a5 and loses horribly.
We've already had knight d5, very tricky move, and then e4 leading to mate with the king on d5 or something like that. So anyway, carry on.
So knight d7.
d2.
Yeah, knight d7.
D2.
Sorry, bishop
Knight
d2.
d7.
Knight d7.
Yeah. And he now castled long, and I went b5, yeah. And the whole point of his bishop d2 or e3, and as opposed to going castling short, is to enable him to castle long. There are lines, by the way, with the bishop on e3 where black sacks the exchange on e3 to get dynamic play. We won't look at them, but my thought process during the game is, has he put the bishop on d2 to avoid that exchange possibility? But so I carried on as if he put the bishop on e3 with my move b5.
Well, he went king b1, didn't he?
He went king b1.
Did he play g4 and try and get some play?
Do you know, I didn't even consider g4. And I mean, for a start, after g4, I can simply play.
You can take it, of course.
I could take it, or I could even maybe go h4. But
I mean, the idea is I'm going to play h3.
Yeah. But that was why I might not take it, you know.
But surely he's got to be getting on with something here, or you just get your knight to d5 and have a good game.
I would agree. It would make, I mean, again, I don't know whether g4 has ever been played. King b1 is a rather cautious move. He does it for a specific reason, which is consistent with his follow-up, although it's not a particularly good follow-up, in my view. But that's why he did it. But
and
yeah,
you
g4,
mentioned knight f8 as the main line.
It is.
I mean, I wonder if that's the stop. That's what provoked me to thinking about g4, because of course
Yeah.
that stop g4, doesn't it?
That's a good point. That may well be the reason why. But if you look, b5 is on the database. You'll find it is very popular. Not as popular as knight f8, but it's quite popular, I think you'll find, with this b5 idea. But you're possibly quite right that G4 is the main reason why knight F8 is preferred. Anyway, after King B1, I played knight B6, which is, you know, the purpose behind my B5. I'm aiming to throw my queenside pawns up and try and get a grip on the white squares. And he now played a surprising move, which was bishop F4. And this loses 2 bits for a rook, which I saw, of course, but I then rejected taking them. The engine thinks I should take them, but I'll show you why I rejected it. So if I play rook E2, queen,
yes,
yeah,
rook E2, queen E2, bishop F4. I didn't like queen H5.
Is there queen E4 as well?
Yeah, although bishop H6, it probably,
You can defend against that, can you?
with bishop H6.
The bishop will block the E file on E6.
Yeah. So, I mean, he just grabs the H pawn and he's got, you know, a rook and pawn for 2 pieces and pressure. Because now, after bishop H6, which I had seen, obviously, what put me off this was the idea of white going G3 and F4 and leaving my bishop shut out of the game.
Can you play after queen takes H5? Can you sack a pawn with F5 to just to get rid of his bishop?
Yes, I suppose so. The worry then, though, is it's 2 pawns, a rook and 2 pawns for
Yeah, we get the knight to D5 as well.
If you go G6 there, is that terrible?
Well, can he take?
There's queen F7 check, winning the bishop on F4. I was planning to just move my king and block with the bishop on H6. I don't think I'll get the chance.
Right. Okay.
Wait a minute. Let's see. Just what happens after this?
Right. F5. Bishop takes.
Oh, F5. Yeah. No, that's right. Okay, carry on. Sorry.
So, well, I was saying I was put off this by G3 and F4. And although, you know, I've got the 2 pieces, I envisaged it would be quite a difficult time getting my my bishop on H6 into the game.
Can you play queen F8 to go G6 next?
Well, that's probably the sort of idea that I'd have to play.
Bishop G7.
Yeah, it might work, but I just didn't spend very long evaluating this. I just thought, I'm not sure I like this, and you know, I thought I don't need to do this. I thought I can just get on with active play, which is more or less what I did instead. So I played bishop E6, and he took on D6, which I'm not sure. I mean, I think this is quite nice for black now because, you know, my queenside play is going to be much quicker than his kingside play. And, you know, he messes around a bit with the knight now. This was not a great move.
His kingside play almost seems to have ground to a halt.
Well, quite. How does he get anything going? G4 is not going to help, just sheds a pawn, and it's hard to see how he can activate. So I think black is quite comfortable here and maybe slightly better. So anyway, knight G3 does not help his cause. And now queen D5, threatening 2 pawns.
This has been played before, you mentioned, and you mentioned A5 as well.
Yeah, I didn't, of course, know it had been played before at the time. It was all new to me because I was preparing for bishop E3, not bishop D2.
Aha.
This is a game Vavulin against Amdurlauf. I know it well. I was there.
And this is
hang on.
supposed to be very
Internet
good for black.
2020.
Supposed to be good for black.
Yeah, I think black's got a nice position, and you know he's got more threats on the queen side than white has on the king side.
So you played queen D5 instead?
Yes.
With the threat?
Yeah, he played B3, obviously, and I played the obvious A5 because this, to me, is a rather pleasant position now.
Yeah. Definitely. My goodness, he's wasting a lot of time.
Yeah.
Several moves with the knight, several moves with the bishop, the king B1.
Yeah,
and he's just giving you a massive attack.
yeah, and I just forced the light square weakness, which he now concedes with b4.
Oh dear.
Well, he's got to, hasn't he?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Unless he plays knight d2, but it doesn't probably help much. I just open the a file, and you know, it's still horrible. I gain control. But if he takes back with the a pawn, I've got the a file. If he takes back with the knight, I've got c4 under control. So either way, the position's ghastly for him. So I don't think
you're right. Yeah. Okay, he goes b4. Wonderful.
And now I just hoovered up the g pawn.
Greed is good.
Yeah, well, it works here because he can't go bishop e4 because I take it. And after queen takes, I go bishop a2 check. So that was why pushing the a pawn, softening up the light squares, you know, just gives him, he's got a very poor position now.
Your games are full of surprising tactics.
I like to throw a few tactics in if I can. But this one's quite simple. Anyway, he played knight. What did he do here?
93.
93, queen f3, rook hg1, and I played h4, made Harry do some work, which is useful. And now he wants to play bishop e4 and win my c6 pawn. So he blundered here with king a1.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I saw in a flash that this was pretty bad, courtesy of bishop b3.
Oh dear.
And a nice exchange drops into my lap. Queen d2.
Nice. Very nice.
As good as any. But again, it gets interesting now. It looks like this is miserable. I thought he was busted. And now he shocked me with knight f5. I was anticipating a recapture on d1, but no, this move. And I had a long think here. I thought for about 10 minutes or so, maybe more. And I've got to be careful I don't get mated here. It really is quite difficult. I found the only move, or the best move by a country mile, which is king f8. I can't play g6 because queen h6 and game over.
Oh dear.
Queen h6 is his threat. So all of a sudden, even though I'm a whole bloody rook up, everything's very difficult. But king f8 was the key move. But before playing it, I had to look long and hard, and I was looking at it while he thought. He thought for about 15 minutes here. And the critical line is rook g7. Now, he's threatening queen h6. And if apart from that, the big threat is also rook h7, threatening rook h8 mate. And I could go g8, but then he's got queen h6, or if nothing else, he's even got rook g7 check and a repetition. So I'm suddenly thinking, oh my God, what do I do here? But don't forget, he hasn't played rook g7, but I'm waiting for him to play it. And I suddenly spotted here two moves. The first one is the easy and obvious one, queen h5, which stops queen h6 and stops rook to h7. But I was slightly unsure. The engine says this is best, but the reason I hesitated was queen f4 was the move that worried me, with queen d6 coming. Now I've got rook a d8, which is pretty much false, but then queen to c7. And in this position, you know, I began to think this is getting difficult. Okay, I can block on d7, but he takes on c6 and he's threatening queen c5 check. So all of these things were beginning to worry me. So this is the right line, by the way, and the engine proves that it is. But instead I was looking for an alternative.
C2 at the end of it, doesn't it?
Sorry?
It gives bishop c2 at the end of that.
Exactly.
Line.
But then I saw the idea, whilst he hasn't played rook g7 yet, this is whilst the rook's still on g1, we're all thinking. I saw the idea of bishop c2 in this move.
Nice.
And this was the move I really liked. And when I looked at this, I found a mate in 8. And it's a line I'd like to show, because if he goes rook h7 here, which is, yeah, because he can't go queen h6, because queen d1 is quick mate. So if he goes rook here, the winning line is queen h1 check, and queen b1, king a3, queen b3, pawn takes, rook a2, rook a1, rook b1, and rook a8 mate. So I saw all that when the rook was on g1.
Very nice.
So I was quite chuffed to see a mate in 8 in a
Yeah.
hugely complicated position with a very fancy bishop c2 move, because it's far from obvious that that's a good move in this position. And he can't take on c2 because, what is it? Why can't he take with the, trying to remember why now.
A3 check, isn't it?
What is it? Oh, no, it's knight c4. Knight c4. Knight c4 would win. King a2, king b2, knight c4 mate.
No, but you mate him in 2 moves, don't you?
No. One move. Go back.
Okay, well, fine.
Queen h1, knight c4 is mate.
Beautiful.
Yeah. No, he has to take with the queen on c2. That's the more challenging line, not the bishop.
Mates with the queen. Okay.
Now I could go rook. Is it rook or queen check? Which is it now?
I think you've got this.
Oh, it's rook check. Is it rook check, king a2, then a3, and queen d5? Probably.
Yeah.
And queen d5.
That's curtains, isn't it? Because you've got rook b1 check at some point.
Exactly. You know, pawn takes.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, that's the end.
Yeah. Game over.
It's a very strange position, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. So back to
the game. Back to the rook on g1. Yeah. So in this position, he didn't take on g7. I don't know how much. We didn't have a post-mortem, so I don't know.
Quite lucky to get this type of attack at all, really.
Sorry.
He's actually lucky to get this.
Yes. I mean, it came out of nowhere. You know.
And you could easily have lost.
Yeah, absolutely. But he played rook d1, and after that, the game is quite quick and simple. So I blocked the queen h6 idea and guarded h4 at the same time, and I think I just brought my pieces out now. It's all relatively easy. I wanted to prevent bishop g2 with tempo, and here you took the knight. I took with the bishop rather, and I took with the rook, keeping my pawn structure intact. It might have been better to take with the pawn, but I like the idea of keeping my pawn chain, as I say, intact, so b5 is safe. And I was very happy to see this because it's a totally one ending and very easy for me. It doesn't last very long at all now.
Yes, no play.
No, he's got nothing. And he's trying to stalemate himself, but, but there's little chance of that. And here he goes. He's trying to lose his pawns and hope he gets stalemated.
He's losing his marbles.
He is a bit, and he resigns now here because of c3 check. You know, next move.
Yeah. Another interesting game.
Very
different.
Yeah, it was. It was quite nice. Every now and then I'm able to play a nice game like that in between all the rubbish I play. But you know, it's nice when you can get a good game like that.
Well, we've had an extraordinary selection of games this morning. What does the future hold for you, Nigel?
Well, the next few months for both of you.
Yeah, we're both going off to Dresden, aren't we, Andrew, in October?
Yes, that's true.
The European Senior Team Championships. I'm then going to play in the World Senior Individual Championships in Assisi in Italy in November. So I've got those 2 events lined up. And I haven't really thought about next year yet, but I'm retired, have been for some years. My aim is to try and play one serious tournament a quarter. So, you know, for a year. I played Reykjavik back in April. I played, Aquitermi in June. And as I say, I've got these 2 upcoming tournaments. So I think quite a lot of seniors chess. I think as you get on a bit now, playing against the juniors is a bit of a challenge. So I much prefer playing seniors chess. But I'll be playing Guildford matches as well and turning out occasionally in the 4NCL. So I'll be still playing quite a bit, as well as running the seniors scene once I take over fully from Stuart next year.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
Yeah, hope you found it pleasurable.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry about all the hassle we had at the beginning.
No, I mean, the show wouldn't be the same without that.
It's good to see you both. And Nigel, I look forward to catching up with you sometime. I haven't seen you in a long while in the flesh. So it'd be good to see you again. And hopefully we'll be able to persuade you to play seniors.
What? I'm off to Slovenia and Egypt.
Are you?
Yeah, yeah. I'm doing my best to dust off the cobwebs.
All right.
Well, it's getting better.
Right.
It's not as bad as it was before.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I'm looking forward to, the soaring like an eagle again before too long.
Well, I hope you do.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Forward to seeing you again soon. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're wrapping up now, and all the best to both of you, and see you soon.
Yeah. Okay. Then. Cheers. Then. Bye.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Yep, bye.